Hello again. My name is Dave. My grandchildren call me Papa, and this is Papa's History. Today we are going to a BC government panning reserve at Wild Horse Creek, just across the highway from Fort Steele Heritage Town and a little ways north of Cranbrook, British Columbia. The BC Ministry of Mines has set aside a number of reserves for recreational gold panning. At present, there are 14 of them, and the Fort Steele Recreational Panning Reserve is the easternmost one. The rules are simple. No mechanized equipment of any kind, just a shovel, a gold pan, and maybe a pick or pry bar are allowed. No sluice boxes, high bankers, or anything else. In exchange for the simplicity, you do not need a permit or license, and there are no claims allowed. This area was one of the earliest gold rushes in BC. From 1864 to 1866, this was a very crowded area. Fisherville, we'll go and see it later, had 5,000 people living in it during the summer. It was this gold rush that prompted the government to build a Dewdney Trail between Yale and Fisherville, up in the mountains, 400 miles long and 4 feet wide. It was an all-Canadian route through the mountains, completed in 1866, before British Columbia became the 6th province in 1871. Fisherville always reminds me of the movie Paint Your Wagon. Like the movie, when the miners discovered rich ground under the town, they burnt the records office and mined the entire town for gold. A new town called Wild Horse grew up a little ways further down the hill. This area is about dead center in the panning reserve. Lots of parking. The bridge is on the Wardner-Fort Steele Road, quite close to Fort Steele. This is done in August, so it's about the right height for going panning. I wouldn't go down here in the spring when the water was roaring through. This is the panning reserve itself, outlined in red, and you see it goes all the way down to the Kootenay River. There's quite a bit of area available to you, and like I said, no one is allowed to have claims, so fill your boots, but don't try and take something away from someone else. And stay in the claim area. Everything else in this area is claimed by someone else. This is south of the railway bridge looking towards Kootenay River. Not a lot of people go down here, but then it's probably quite a ways from the source. And here we are looking up the Wild Horse River towards the valley where it comes from. This is where Fisherville was. 5,000 people lived in this area in 1866. Now there's a few pit houses. The area is protected as a recognized heritage site. You can't even take a leaf out of here. But you can walk back and forth. There's lots of interpretive signage around. The road is blocked off, not here, but further up with the gate. This is one of the pit houses. There was actually several gold rushes here, 1864 to 1866, then again around 1884, and a third one, 1919 to 1925. So, a lot of action. This area was where the post office was for Fisherville, and later it was occupied by other people. There was a very heavy Chinese influence here, and the Chinese were the best miners in the world when it comes to this stuff. As you can see, everything is just left where it was crashed. And this, where the post office was the end of the Dewdney Trail. Bill Barlee actually had a picture of this when it was a post office or when it was a building, but surrounded by the Chinese miners in the early 1920s or 1930s. And this is Wild Horse and Fisherville Cemetery. By the time restoration work was started in the 1930s, the crosses were there, but totally unreadable. No one knows who's buried where. The little fence areas, like the one that's in the center, are original. And somewhere in here is buried the Northwest Mounted Policeman that was shot and killed during the line of duty. These little fenced-off areas are original, but the crosses, of course, are not. Pause the video if you want to see any of this closer up. This shows the Panning Reserve and one large nugget that was found under that bridge earlier. And this is where the post office was. It would have been almost dead ahead there. And down on the creek bed, while it was still active mining, although this picture looks fairly recent. This shows where all the damage came from. This is hydraulic mining. And those steep sand and gravel cliffs that you see all over the place are the result of one of these things. And they put a sluice box in the bottom of the valley where the river is, and they just flushed everything out. You can see the damage here. That last picture was probably taken almost straight ahead down below. You can see the damage even after all this time. It hasn't leveled out yet. Hydraulic mining was outlawed in BC sometime around 1925. And this is the road out of the Fisherville historic site. And here's the present owner. This osprey did not like my drone. And it actually has a chick in that nest on top of the pole. The poles are put there on purpose by the hydro companies to give the osprey someplace other than the power poles to nest on. There he is again, or she. The signs are getting hard to read after all this time. I suspect they're probably 25 or almost 30 years old. The bridge is on the Wardner Fort Steele area. The little road that goes down, you can just barely see it there, is extremely rough. I wouldn't take a small car down there, although there's people that do. And on the weekends and holidays, this is actually a pretty crowded area. And our friend